So I'm in Nashville right now and I'm stuck in 5 o'clock traffic and I have something I'm itching to tell y'all, so I might as well do it here. So I'll name this video From Primitive Christianity to Roman Churchianity. So this is a great distinction that we've drawn, and thank God for the revelation and illumination to be able to vocalize these things clearly. So from primitive Christianity to Roman Churchianity. What happened was that the primitive believers had to go into the world and start trying to teach these things to Grecians, and Grecians, as Paul warns in 1 Corinthians, desire knowledge and wisdom, and he says the Jews, they desire a sign. So Jesus Christ and Him crucified is all we need to know whether or not someone's actually a believer. And the primitive Christians were the ones who were persecuted, and the Roman Churchianity became the persecutors. So, as Adolf Deisman in Light from the Ancient East explains, he explains that the true Christians can be seen archaeologically from the archaeological finds, such as the inscriptions in the tombs where they were forced together because of the Roman persecutions. Now, to make it easy on themselves, as we see in the Roman Catholic Church, the leaders just said, "Hey, we're Christians now. We'll change Peter's name to Jupiter, and we'll change Paul's name to Hermes, we'll change Jupiter's name to Peter, and we'll change Hermes' name to Paul," and it's Mercury in the Romans. The different gods all the pagan gods are just the same as the Babylonian gods. Their names just get changed as you go into different cultures, like Egypt, and they had their gods' names, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. And then over in India, they have Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, or Siva and Vishnu. Brahma, Siva, and Vishnu, sorry. And then in the Roman Catholic Church, they had Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. That's their Trinity. That's why they pray to Mary. That's why they pray to dead saints, because it's just their old gods, their fortunes. And that's the whole thing with the rosary beads and the playing dress up, just like your standard Roman Grecian temple would operate. So, but it's actually Babylonianism. It's just, as it changes from culture to culture, they just give the gods new names. Well, the Roman Church, which is the persecutors of the primitive Christians' belief, so from believers to, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. From believers to, anyways, my point is that they became persecutors rather than the persecuted. So the persecuted are the true believers, as we see all through Scripture, and the persecutors, so the persecuted are the true believers, and the persecuted are the church. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I keep losing track there. So, like I said, the persecuted are the Christians, and the persecutors are the Churchians. So, the Churchians of Churchianity love to kill the Christians of Christianity, as we see in Scripture, that the world-ruling people destroy the true believers. That's what happens to all the disciples, for the most part, and all the Christians throughout Christendom, for the most part, that the true Christians are hated, thrown out, cast out, and they kill you, supposing they do God service. And that's what Jesus warned about, and that's what happens. Just so when we see the Nicene Council, that's really just a culmination of this Judaism / Grecianism / Zoroastrianism / Oh, that's right. That's what I wanted to say earlier. From bureau to bureaucracy. And as it says in the movie The Incredibles, they make it to where you can't penetrate the bureaucracy. They create the dogmas and the stigmas and the different things that they see fit for themselves by the work of their hands. And then they get mad if someone acts outside of what the bureau has ordained with holding hands with Caesar. That's called the leaven of Herod, and the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees is their doctrines that they make up, their false doctrines, and also the Herodian idea of that Herod has some kind of authority. Well, as long as he's obedient to God, he does, but as we see, God struck him dead because he took the adulation from the crowd and didn't give God credit. In Acts, that story's in Acts if you want to go look it up. And he put on his big robe, and that's why James noticed that people were having favoritism for the people who were rich. And Jesus said, how hardly shall a rich man enter into the kingdom of heaven? Well, who has the money? Well, the Roman Catholic Church had a lot of money for a long time, and they still do. So, but we see the real shift in all of the writings begin to pick up speed because of the syncretism of beliefs, which is the combination of beliefs, and the ecumenism between Zoroastrian Babylonianism with the Chaldeans and the Zoroastrians of the Persians and the Grecian philosophers and the rabbinical schools, and they all combined and made their bureau, and they held hands and said, yeah, now we're making a lot of money. We can kick away the ladder and control who climbs up and control the positions and all of that. And all the meantime, most of the people don't even recognize in the scriptural writings that all of that is completely man-made. They just use the same words, which is what confuses everybody, and that's called grammary. G-R-A-M-A-R-Y. Just like grammar has two M's, but grammary only has one M. So grammary is the use of language against you. That's why they use double speak. Dialogos, I believe is what that word is. Psyche, a double-minded man. A psyche, two-minded, right? Double-minded. So they want to serve God and man. And that's what Thayer says in his book, that they want to serve God and man. They can't make up their mind which they want to serve. And that's called tossed to and fro. That's called being fickle. That's called meandering or philandering, you know. You just think you can do whatever you want when you live your life like that. But we serve God rather than man, as they said in front of the high priest. Whether we should serve God or man, you judge. And that's what we do. They also said we ought to obey God rather than man. And Jesus says no man can serve two masters. And that's why Adam, the elders in 1 Samuel chapter 8 and in 1 Samuel chapter 12, they chose a man king instead of God as king. And in Hosea 13, he says, you ought to worship God. Or God says, I will be your king. So God is king. So I just wanted to say this. Primitive Christians of Christianity to the 400 years later to Roman Churchians of Churchianity. So thank God for that distinction. And from believer to bureaucracy is what another title for this. Alright, so I hope y'all enjoyed this. See you on the next video. Bye.